leading almost blindly with too much confidence, with
Yeah.
no real direction. That's just as dangerous, I think, as too little, because you're not inspiring people. It's scary. My whole theory, being either a leader for another company or my own business, has always been, can everyone just have a nice life? No idea is a bad idea. Let's run with, that's a suggestion. Let's see how that works.
It's amazing, isn't it, how many people are allowed to behave in that way in an organization. Often the louder and the more confidence they appear to have in their own volition, which isn't always true. Often they're hiding things too, but they're just getting louder about it. I'll get more scared of them, so they don't deal with it. And it causes an absolute ripple effect throughout the organization.
It's been quite a realization for me last year that I had lost so much confidence. And actually the realization is so sad, really, but also so great that I have realized. And now I can do something about it.
You're constantly asking, am I doing the right thing? I'm a great coach. I'm an absolute rubbish marketer, rubbish at finance. We're all good at something. You have to have real resilience, right? To run your own business and keep going.
I just felt I wasn't being heard. To feel you're not being heard in your own business, that's what makes me now so desperately keen to help others to be heard.
Welcome to Lead Brightly. I'm your host, Sarah Farmer, and I'm joined today by the fabulous Kath Reynolds. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kath before we get stuck into our conversation. So Kath has got over 36 years worth of experience in finance roles. She's the founding director of Balance Recruitment. She's also an award-winning professional and was recently named one of the UK's most impressive female entrepreneurs for 2025 by Small Business Britain. She's also a judge for the Best Business Women Awards and a coach and mentor for women in finance and leadership and female entrepreneurs, helping them not just survive, but thrive and succeed. Kath, thank you for joining me today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Very excited.
Yeah, absolutely welcome. So shall we start by exploring your thoughts on the relationship between confidence and leadership? And in particular, what happens when people have got maybe too much or too little, anything in between as well. So what are your thoughts on it overall? And then we'll get digging into your experience with confidence.
It's been very interesting in terms of thinking about it, actually looking back at 36 years. Out of those 36, I've had 30 years in leadership positions. So
wow,
a lot of different companies, different industry sectors, size of teams, and just the relationship. So I have been actually looking back and thinking what worked, what didn't. And for me, it's very difficult, I think, to compare working as an employee for someone else in a leadership role and as the business owner in a leadership role. I've found that is actually, for me, quite conflicting approaches, looking back on it now. I think what works well from a confidence thing, because I've always thought of myself as quite a confident person, and I've had my first leadership role when I was 23.
That's very young.
Very young. And also, and this still happens in today's terms. No one really, I believe, trains people in how to be a leader, or very rarely is it.
I do. That's my
exactly.
job.
In internal companies, I mean, they promote and
but they just
go, oh, you're good at what you do, now lead others. Whereas actually, it's not the same skill set. And I strongly advise people to go outside to coaches to work on what actually does work and what doesn't. Obviously, back in the day, we're going back 30 years. So I was not given any leadership guidance or whatever. So my style, Sarah, and it kind of has always been, I just went with the, if they like me, it will work.
Okay. Which actually, I mean, it's not a bad approach, isn't it? Because if you're likable, liking we know breeds trusting. So then if you're trusted, then you should be able to get things done. But I'm sure you experienced as you went through that liking wasn't enough, and not everybody will like you.
Good point.
So what happens if people don't like you? Because you can guarantee pretty much 50% of the people will and 50% of people won't, just because of the way our behavioral styles are and what we like and what we don't like
Oh,
in people. And that can then, it does impact your confidence then, right, as well, doesn't it?
completely. And it plays a very dangerous game, actually, if that's your only real style, because it's so obvious as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. I mean, as you said, it does have its pluses because honesty and transparency, and then a mutual trust system, and it does work in some. And I'm genuinely trying to create, a really nice, positive environment for people. And my whole theory, being either a leader for another company or my own business, has always been, can everyone just have a nice life? But it's not necessarily the most or best approach to leadership. And also some don't feel that they can progress with just someone going, oh, isn't it nice working in this little environment? And those that don't like you or, don't like that style have picked up is your method.
Yeah.
And can play the game.
Yeah.
As well.
So going down the route of looking at, what's behind, let's make it a nice environment. And I'm intrigued in this, is that often when people talk about, well, I just want everyone to be happy. Are you avoiding the unhappiness that comes with different styles of leadership, conflict, handling difficult conversations, all of that sort of stuff? So what's behind it for you?
For me, and I'm massive strong believer in this, is that it's sort of finding out more about the person, what they all do, contribute and enjoy. So I've never been, oh, that's your job title, that's what you must do. I'm very, and also being in finance roles, when you're head of finance, it's very common to be head of finance and operations, for example. So I could have teams of finance, IT, admin, HR. When I was looking back, I think the best leadership role I played was when I was working for a company that I managed finance, sales and marketing teams. It was all about, for me, the different departments collaborating and seeing, not saying, putting people in their, little units and saying finance does this, sales does this, marketing does this. When you, as a leader, can bring that all together and just show them how you all impact each other, how we're all after the same goal, and the enjoyment and the natural talent that then comes out. And then when you say to people, no idea is a bad idea, that's a suggestion. Let's see how that works. Finance people can be creative. Some of the best people with numbers were the marketing. Honestly, they were brilliant because they'd want to pitch a marketing campaign and they'd already worked out what the ROI will be, but it was still apparently a finance job that we had to provide that to them. But once you sort of just gave people that opportunity to just thrive in first of all, I mean, the company has to be of a size where you can't just go, look, everyone just join and do what you like. Obviously there's skill sets, but you can say, would you like to try that? Would you want to sit in a sales meeting? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Or is there anything in particular you'd really like to have a stab at? So maybe let's look at your core responsibilities, and if there's time, let's add that and that. And then they could potentially be transferred into a different role, just depending on whatever. I think that is where it works, I was confident in bringing that together. And then my confidence literally empowered them to have their own confidence, and they felt they could speak up, and no one was sort of shy to make a suggestion. And it wasn't, that's so-and-so's job. It was, well, let's be a team. And that's what worked, I think.
So what I'm hearing is if the leader, in this case you, has the confidence to be open to feedback, open to questions, open to ideas, and you want everybody to do a good job for the right reasons, anything is possible, right?
Exactly.
So have there been times when you have either yourself or worked with people that have struggled with too much or too little confidence? Has that ever happened to you, or been on the receiving end of it?
Too much would be, I've never felt I've had too much. A lot of people probably assume I am a very confident person just by how I present. But no. And so I've never actually been too much. I think that job I was relating to, that was probably bang on where I needed to be to get the best out of people.
Okay.
I have had and reported into people that either I felt had too much, because leading almost blindly with too much confidence, with no real direction, and that's just as dangerous, I think, as too little. Because you're not inspiring people. It's scary. It's the thinking proof of this
as well, right? It squashes your ability to show up and shine because they don't want your ideas. They kind of railroad over you. So I've got two things I want to talk to you about. One is this, which is what's it like working for a leader that has, in your opinion, too much confidence, and you felt it some way. But also, you made a comment before that, which was people might think that I'm overconfident. Then you went, "Oh no, but that's not me." So I'll go there in a minute. But tell me a little bit more about so when you've been led by someone with overconfidence, what was the impact on you, or maybe on the wider team, maybe on the organization itself?
In one word, horrendous. She was the CEO, I was the CFO, CEO. We set up the subsidiary in Australia for this international company. Very different duties to perform the original setup, because I had to get all the systems in place, but we were together on hiring and all that. But so overly confident that, as you say, doesn't listen to any sort of suggestions or potential warnings.
Right.
She's sales background, which she had to be to run this sort of, but so overly confident that you sort of think, I need a little bit of proof. If you're not going to listen to me and my sort of finance warnings or my finance suggestions or recommendations, I need a little bit of proof as to why and what are you doing and based on what. That's when I start questioning and need evidence. And then it doesn't work well, because we should just be supporting each other. We should be after the same goal, both being equally heard, both having full respect for what each other's role is. But I think when someone tries to just almost barrel you out of the way, I think Pat potentially maybe felt threatened.
What did it do to your, when you think about when you did have to communicate together? I'm wondering how that changed. So you start off with sharing your ideas. Then what happens? Do you start to reduce the amount of ideas you share? Do you give up? Do you get stroppy? Because people reacted to those triggers in different ways. What was yours?
I went different.
Oh, just to reporting in a different direction
So I
altogether.
skipped local, went head office to Hong Kong.
So you did the avoidance route.
Yeah. And I just, because I thought we're not getting anywhere. We're a subsidiary of a much bigger corporation. Also, I don't want to be associated. So it wasn't whistleblowing, but it was, please can I highlight these financial issues to you and do with that what you will, because I'm not getting any further here. I still was managing the finance team on the ground and the sales and marketing. And that was all. I was sort of had us in a little protective shell. This one wasn't really able to bang in on, but I was thinking, we're all going to be impacted by this. People are going to leave. They're not feeling hurt. There's only so much protection I can do. And actually, if it's a CEO refusing to listen to me, she's not going to listen to anyone else in the team.
What was the impact of that then? What was the impact of you going sort of circumventing it and going around this person? What happened next? What was the relationship like with you and her? How did that
Not ideal. It's a very tricky situation, but my main concern, I thought, oh, look, I can deal with it. I don't have to, as long as the company is getting the right information and as long as the team are happy, then I was still, it wasn't ideal for me mainly. And then life happened, and then head office had to come in and do investigations, and
So can I ask you about that? It wasn't good for you. And this is something that I often find with the clients that I work with, is that we kind of say that and we brush over it. But actually what happens to us when we're in that high stress environment can be really unhealthy, can't it?
Yes.
So I'm wondering how it played out for you, sort of mentally, physically, emotionally, maybe even financially.
I was exhausted and I felt bad. It doesn't sit right with me, not being able to work it out with someone one-on-one. That just doesn't, not that I was going behind it. I was still fulfilling my role, doing my duties and all that, so I could sleep at night, but it still wasn't the way I normally would like to work. And
Yeah.
then luckily life happened and I got pregnant. So um so yeah,
It was a
um
miracle.
yeah, thank God got me out of here. But and then team sort of eventually did move on and do different things. I'm in contact with all of them now, still on LinkedIn. And
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
I felt it was the best possible outcome, and there's not much more you can do.
No, I mean, I haven't heard you say whether you tackled this or not head on with her, and I'm wondering whether you
I did
did
try, yeah.
try and it was blocked, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really hard, isn't it? Because you sound if you've got the confidence to go and have that conversation, but you're still not getting anywhere, then what do? You have to go
What do you
round.
do? Yeah.
What do you do? It's amazing, isn't it, how many people are allowed to behave in that way in an organization. Often the louder and the more confidence they appear to have in their own volition, which isn't always true. Often they're hiding things too, but they're just
Yes.
getting louder about it.
Yes.
I'll get more scared of them. So they don't deal with it. And it causes an absolute ripple effect throughout the organization. Because it impacted you, which then impacts how you are with your team, because you might be more tired, because you haven't slept very well worrying about this.
That's often the case, though. The louder or the more confident the people, the more almost they're just trying to divert from the, don't look at that. I'm loud.
Yeah.
Look over here. Don't talk to me about the detail. Don't talk to me about it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. Shush, not your job.
And
Anything.
nobody dares to get involved. It's fascinating. Then we've got a little bit of behavioural styles preference coming in here. I would imagine, and I don't have to talk to you about this, but I don't know whether you've done behavioural styles profiling or not. But if we look at what we call a classic red dominant driver, if we're looking at colours or insights or anything like that, I'm almost feeling that person was probably already in that
Yes.
in that area, sort of as a preference in that area. So, and that can be quite dominating and scary for people to try and deal with. And they attack so you can't get. So what about, let's go back to you then. That comment you made, which intrigued me, was about, people think I'm really confident, but no. And then you brushed off it and went on to something else. Are you confident? I mean, right now, how is your confidence? But have you always been confident in the past, or have there been times when you've really felt your confidence taken up?
When I was very young, put me on the stage, give me a microphone. You give me a dare, I'll do it. Yeah, 50 cents, I don't care. The funny person to put me in the spotlight. And then as you get older and more conscious of yourself. But it's funny because people who've still known me I met a girlfriend last week I lived with her when I was 23. She said, oh, you shouldn't be worried about that. You're so confident. I thought, oh my God, do you genuinely think that? I mean, without going into too much detail, I feel violently sick when I'm doing things like this ahead of time.
Oh, really?
Yes. And,
Right.
for
You
2
warned me
weeks.
you need to disappear.
Honestly, genuinely this morning. Anyway, but it can be 2 weeks before I'm doing something, and it can even just be a talk at my own company's thing, just saying a thank you. Yeah.
So tell me what's underneath that, and this is where the coach comes in. Tell me more about this. So that fear, what's it a fear of? Because if we can find out what the fear is, we can start to look at where that story started, because our brain's linking old news with what's happening today. So maybe some time ago, you were on screen and you felt really uncomfortable, or you couldn't answer a question, and your brain's going, oh, remember that time, Kath, when this awful thing happened? And now you're going to go then to have this conversation with Sarah. Certain death is coming, panic. But obviously the two things don't go together. And maybe that old story actually isn't relevant at all. But what is it?
I try and think, and I think, what? I mean, this is a different situation because it's one-on-one, and when going onto a panel at the beginning of the year, I was actually thinking in my head, would just say someone heckles me or starts screaming, what would you know? I mean, really? Why would anyone be doing that?
Is that what it's about then? Is people might contest that sort of that inner narrative is, you really shouldn't be here. You may have 36 years and won an award, but actually, I don't care about that. Right now, you're 4 years old and you're on a stage and you shouldn't be here. That's how, I don't know how it feels, right?
It's insane, right?
Yeah.
But I was actually speaking to someone recently about finding, external validation. I'm all for that. Awards are important and celebrating your success. And yes, we do need to say, look at our achievements. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
it's that internal validation, I think, is just as key, important, and trying to find out what makes you think, no, I am worth it. But,
So how
that's a
does
whole nother.
Yeah, that's really another hour for that one. However, let's just, because this is actually really, really important. You do come across incredibly confidently. You present really well. You chat really easily, and you've obviously done incredibly well. So we look at you on the outside, and we're like, oh yeah, she's not going to have a problem doing this. Wouldn't have even crossed my mind that you'd be nervous necessarily about coming on to do something like this. But why wouldn't you? Because you're all of a sudden the spotlight's on you. We're talking about you. So it's probably a normal level of fear and trepidation because, we don't know where the conversation is always going to go. But it's when it tips into the thing that doesn't allow you to actually join me that we have a problem, right? That's what
Yes.
start to look at real imposter syndrome when
Yeah.
we're sort of crippled by it and we don't say yes to the interview. We don't say yes to going on, being on that board on stage and we don't say yes to the promotion. Have you ever been at that point? Has it ever been the point where you have avoided?
Yeah.
Really? What have you avoided
And it
doing?
makes me very sad because I know this thing, and it's been quite, a realization for me last year that I had lost so much confidence. And actually, the realization is so sad, really, but also so great that I have realized that's happened.
Yeah.
And now I can do something about it. But when you're in it, you don't realize it's happening. How on earth do you just go, well, this is normal. I've always been this way. But when I had to do, I was getting ready for this panel that I went trying to get notes out, and I came across a folder that I'd written a whole talk on back in, I think it was 10 years ago, and I pulled out.
And what was the reason? What was the reason you gave them?
I mean, I wasn't well.
Okay.
But I still think I would have done it if I'd been me now.
Wow. Okay. And it's quite impactful, isn't it? And I think we often sort of gloss over those experiences, but actually looking at it and going, right, what was going on for me then is a really powerful thing to do, is to understand why was I not able to. Now, you may have been unwell, therefore you didn't have capacity, and it might have been exactly the right thing to do. But actually what you've said is right now I'd have handled it. I'd have done it.
I think I would, yeah. And actually, it was really good. I was reading I was like, oh, I love that. I'm thinking, I'm going to do that again in some way or shape. But yeah, so obviously, where am I now? 53, 10 years ago, I've been in balance 17 years. It was 10 years ago, maybe halfway through, I've obviously lost a lot of the confidence I had, because you need confidence to set up your own business in the first place, don't you?
You do. And I know from experience of running your own business, it constantly knocks your confidence. You're constantly asking, am I doing the right thing? I'm a great coach. I'm an absolute rubbish marketer, rubbish at finance. We're all good at something. But you're just constantly questioning yourself, getting things wrong, spending money on things you shouldn't, which could then knock your confidence again. You have to have real resilience, right? To run your own business and keep going for, I've been going over 10 years. How long have you been
17 now.
Yeah. It takes some balls, right?
And sometimes you think, why? And then people go, well, we never said it'd be easy. It was like, I know, but this.
So, considering what you've done, from what I see, is you've probably got more confidence than most. But sometimes it's not enough and it can stop you from doing things. And it can be really uncomfortable and really frustrating. And have you ever, how it feels when you're feeling like that, sorry. What was the impact on the people that were working for you or with you at that time when you couldn't be, the person
when I couldn't be me?
Yeah.
See, that's another thing. I mean, this has all started happening since our first chapter. I was thinking, oh, wow. Well, the thing I can come away with and think, well, no, we still did well, is because the staff retention was amazing. And it wasn't until COVID that I had the 3 longest members leave, which were 8, 9, and 10 years of service. So I'm like, well, I created the good environment. What I probably didn't do very well is nurture more progression in them. We were trying all the time to, with a small business, it's very hard, isn't it? There's only so much you can go, but you can still personally develop and do different things and expand your horizons that way. And probably I shrunk into a corner a bit. And I just felt I wasn't being heard. To feel you're not being heard in your own business, that's crazy. And that's what makes me now so desperately keen to help others to be heard. Because I think if I felt unheard in my own business, how this must happen all the time with people employed by other companies, that it isn't their own business. And you'd think, surely as business owner, you just keep shouting till you are heard. And I was like, no, that's not me. It's not me. I'm not going to keep shouting and go, you will listen.
Yeah. Some people will do that, but that's where leadership either. And do you know, and are you willing to share what caused you to sort of shrink into that corner at that time? What was the trigger?
I think now it's a combination of a lot of things, not just what was happening in my personal life, but I think I was in charge of I'd run sales meetings and, although I'm finance, that was the sales bit I would do because I don't generate the revenue. But of course, I've been in finance for a very long time. This is my 5th recruitment company I've worked for, and I do know a thing or two about how success or suggest a thing or two. And I think there was that sort of just general and I'm not saying a gender thing, but general sort of consensus is a bit boys club to use that term, although clique would be just as good. And what does she know because she doesn't recruit, even though I'm business owner, but I'm 50% business owner. So as I've said before, I mean, we were in sales meetings and I would look around the room and I could just see eyes rolling. And that to me was, oh, wow. Like it was so upsetting. And then I'd think, hey, come on, just laugh about it, make fun of yourself. And so then I became self-deprecating in in a large environment, so which lose you more respect. So I was, I guess, as much to blame. I could have said, right, okay, someone else run this now. I mean, there are ways, but I just took it and I just was thinking, oh, I don't like that. And then because I'm such a, you've got to like me is my management style. That didn't rock. So I was like, oh my God.
So this is
I've been doing the same thing for too many years.
It's really interesting, isn't it? When we look at you on paper, we think that wouldn't happen. When I speak to you, I think that wouldn't happen. But in that moment, if you've got a little chink in your arm already, and then and you believe, because I would suggest that if you thought that you belonged there and deserved to be saying this thing, and you had as much right as they did to be talking about this stuff, you would have led them to believe it. And this is what often happens when we are affected by low levels of confidence, is that we start to leak out everything that we fear. They pick it up in their brains and have a field day with it. Now, they were probably looking for a chink anyway. They were probably looking for that, but you gave them something too. So they could then it's almost like feeding on your victim. It sounds awful. And it's all done kind of unconsciously, and it's often done without any malice at all. But we forget our part that we played in making that happen. And this kind of brings me on to sort of like almost sort of the last bit of what I want to talk to you about today, which is with that in mind now, knowing that your own lack of confidence, your own leakage was allowing people to get into your mind and play havoc with it even further. What advice would you give to yourself now or to anyone else that is feeling that their confidence isn't helping them achieve what they want to achieve? What advice would you give?
Oh my God, get support. So for me, I'm a Gen X and my parents are the generation where crack on, get on with it, stop whinging. Don't ask for help. That's a huge weakness. Oh my God. So now, obviously the world has changed, and even starting balance, I was always quite, no, I can't really talk to people about it because it just, is it embarrassing that we're this small or this tiny or that the finances aren't great? I mean, we set up in 2008 and, global financial crisis hit. So for 2 years we were under. I was like, oh, I can't tell anyone. That's really poor. And then things would happen and I'd be like, oh, I'm not really sure you can share that. And because recruitment then it was a bit more competition than it was collaboration.
Yeah.
My whole job was we set up with 3 directors initially, 2 now, but it was me non-revenue generating, 2 revenue generators. My whole job was to take away the stress of doing anything but selling. So then I've just created this little, oh, okay, let me just deal with that stress. I did that work-wise and personal life. And almost people would say, well, why don't you go? But if I didn't have, because I couldn't talk to my team because that's filling in too much information on the business thing. I didn't want to put my business partners off their goal of selling. I didn't really want to share it with personal friends because I just was thinking, it's embarrassing. You have to, whatever. And then
sounds like you were protecting yourself an awful lot and trying to protect everybody else at the same time from the truth of what was going on. Reality says, in reality, you should have been able to speak to your business partners. It should have been part of every conversation. But what's interesting to me is hearing that, you say we go up in a generation where, and I totally resonate with this as well, is put yourself together, stop crying, get on with it. We didn't all get every bit of help that you possibly needed every time something was wrong. It was like, just suck it up, buttercup, and move on. So when you've got that as your belief from a very young age, it can really inform the future, which is, I just got to suck it up and deal with it.
And honestly,
that caused more problems, right?
And in the past year, having acknowledged it, thankfully, I literally just keep thinking, I cannot believe I did not do this years ago. And, have your personal advisory board, if you like, and there's all different people around the table, and that can be friends and family, it can be your peers, it can be coach, counseling, a mentor, mentee. I've been mentoring for 3 years, and I think that's really helped as well, because here I am giving confidence to these finance people, these leaders, entrepreneurs, going, you can do this, and we're doing this, and this is how you're going to present in the boardroom next week, and this is what. And I've seen they're thriving, and I'm like,
which I didn't have that. It's become much more normal now, hasn't it? To have that sort of access to help. But what's really changed from what I'm hearing from you is your ability to ask for help and your ability to offer help. And I don't know about you, but as a coach, I find that the more help that I offer, the better I become, because I'm learning from them, they're learning from me. It reminds us all the time. Our job of a coach is I think the best job in the world, because we're constantly getting reminded of the things that we are helping others remember, which we can also get. Having your personal board of advisors, your friends, your family. The problem for me, I think, with friends and family is they're usually too involved, and they have a personal opinion on things, and that isn't always helpful when it comes to business. You got to choose those people quite carefully, which is if you're going for a mentor or a coach or a counselor, whatever it is that you need at the time, they're not emotionally connected to it. So they're much more objective, if they're good at it. And they should lead you somewhere. They should help you lead yourself to the place you want to go.
Yeah. And different networks you can be associated with it. So even me mentoring someone, but then I receive coaching myself, I think that's really quite important, because I'm getting lifted up or supported, and then I can pass that on to the person I'm trying to support.
Yeah.
And also I come off there, like an hour, 2-hour teams, honestly, made my week. And I think, brilliant. That's all I need to do. That's a tick. And that's internal validation right there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much for sharing some of your story. I know there's so much more we could dig into and so many more stories to explore. But I just want to say thank you for today. And I would love to invite you back maybe later on in the year to see how things are going, see how things are progressing. But I really appreciate you joining me today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
It's been a real pleasure. And I'd just like to say to anybody listening or watching today, thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this show or it resonates with you and you'd like to talk to me about anything we've discussed today, you can get hold of me. All of my contact details are available to you on the podcast information. And if you haven't already done so, please click subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Thank you.